Hello, I'm Nicholas Lovell, author of The Curve and a bunch of other self-published books as well. So, love your freeloaders, love your fans. I even said love your super fans. There's a difference between the two. You'll figure that out in the next 15 minutes. The internet, as we've talked about a lot today, has changed a couple of things quite fundamentally about our society, the way we create art, and the way we do business. The one which we tend to focus on is that it's made free and easy sharing possible. For some people, that's a bad thing, and it's called piracy. But I think that's a red herring. I think the real threat, and indeed opportunity, but the real threat is not people stealing your stuff. It's people who compete with you, people who compete with your ideas or the business that you do, figuring out how to give away for free that you used to charge for. Piracy isn't the threat, competition is. And it's up to us to respond to that by figuring out how to use this amazing opportunity to be free. But there's a second thing which the web has enabled. It's enabled one-to-one communications on an unprecedented scale. That's not just true for the 97ers. I think all of us can communicate with people. Somebody I met today, let me ask you a question. How many people in the room use Twitter? Put your hand up if you use Twitter. I normally do. I'm taking a break for November, but normally I do. How many people have made a friend on Twitter? How many people have met that friend? So some hands went down, probably about, of the people who've made friends, which about half of you on Twitter, half of you have never met that person. The idea of making a friend you've never met is a kind of brand new concept, isn't it? I mean, some people had pen pals when they were young, but for most of the rest of us, friends were people we had met in physical person. I met one today for the first time. We've been friends for 2 years, and I met him for the first time today at this event, which was lovely. So that one-to-one communication is incredibly important. And for me, what I want us to think about is how we can use those two things, free and easy sharing and one-to-one communication, to find a new way to spread ideas, to run businesses, and to finance the creation of our art. Now, the starting point for me is, well, let me take you on a journey. Talking about art, talking about love is perhaps a bit weird. You may be able to tell by the shirt and the cufflinks that I haven't always been involved in the world of video games and writing books. I used to be an investment banker. I stopped doing that a long time ago in 2003. The financial crisis wasn't my fault. But then I decided, I was a CFO after that, and I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and I started doing a lot of work in video games. And the problem with that was there were new business models emerging, giving games away for free, making money in different ways. The most successful game last year wasn't Grand Theft Auto. The game that made the most money was Puzzles and Dragons, which is a free game. The third most successful game was Candy Crush Saga, which 300 million people played in a month at its most successful point. It's free. 70% of people who have finished it have never spent any money, and yet it makes $1.5 billion a year in revenue. So it's capable of being free and very expensive at the same time. And as this new model was emerging about 6 years ago, I was doing work in the video game sector, and people kept coming to me and saying, Nicholas, you understand this stuff, by which they meant spreadsheets and finance and stuff. Could you build me a model? Could you help me talk to investors about how to raise money for this new world? And I found myself being sucked back into being an investment banker and a CFO and the stuff I decided to walk away from. And I woke up one morning and went, I don't want to do this anymore. How can I stop it? Because the obvious way is just to say no, but I'm not very good at saying no to things. So I went, I know, I'll take that model that's taken me months to build and years of experience and training and learning to do, and I'll give it away for free. So I had a website called Games Brief, which was quite niche. It's for people who want to make money from free-to-play games. There are more of them than you might think in the world. I have about 5,500 subscribers, about 10 to 20,000 monthly readers. And I uploaded my spreadsheet to this. I didn't give it away for free. I said, give me your email address in return for it, because I believe in earning the right to talk to people again, which is the second part of what I believe in. And I said, that will work. I'll give away my intellectual property, and nobody will hire me to be an investment banker type consultant anymore. Did it work? Did it? Heck. So what happened was that everybody wanted to find out this stuff, was Googling it. They were going, who can tell me how to do this stuff? And my website started coming up fast. They started emailing each other saying, here's this spreadsheet, you should use it. And I'd put my name and URL at the bottom of everything, so even the pirates gave traffic back to me when they stole it. The worst I've happened was a very big corporation which uses my spreadsheet and has taken that off. And I only discovered that when somebody at one of my talks went, I recognize that spreadsheet, we use it. Did you know it came from me? No. Anyway, big corporation, I'm not going to say which one. So I found that by giving stuff away for free, I started being more successful in the other stuff that I did. More successful does, in this case, mean making more money, which is an important part of it, at least as far as I'm concerned. I haven't entirely left the investment banker behind. So as I started thinking about this, I started caring about this. There are many people who visit my website who will never give me any money, and that's okay. I put a lot of my best stuff up front on my website because I want these people to go, that website was useful to me. I want people to be able to make more money making cool video games because that is a really good thing. I call it art. Not everybody thinks video games are art. They're wrong. But the important bit is that I want people to make this stuff. And I don't care that most of these people won't spend money with me. I want them to get value from it. I want them to tell their friends or other people who are trying to work in this space, some of whom have the potential to go on to be super fans of what I do, people who do want to give me money. And that's why I focus so much on earning the right to speak to people again. The purpose of free is not to give stuff away. The purpose of free is to earn the right to start talking to people, to start finding those people who love what you do enough to give you money. There are many more people in the world who don't want to give you money than do. Our job is to find them. And free is a tool. I'm not even a freetard. I don't believe you have to give stuff away for free. What you have to do is find an audience. I think that is vastly easier to do if you start with free than if you don't, but it's not the only technique. If you don't go for free, you probably have to spend lots of money on marketing, and I'd prefer to go the other way. So I love my freeloaders because they're my audience. They're the starting point of my audience. I've earned the right to talk to them again, but I need to be able to do this. I need to be able to enable superfans who will be able to give me money, because without them, all the freeloaders in the world will never enable me to keep doing what I do. And to make sense of this, I developed this thing which I call the curve. Look inside. What I've done here is I've taken all 7 billion people in the world and lined them up in the row. I've magically peered inside their heads and gone, how much do you value something that I do, or something that you do, or something that you do? The depressing thing for the people I just pointed at is that for most people in the world, the answer is nothing at all. Out of 7 billion people, hardly anybody values anything that we do. But there are some people who value what we do at $1, or $5, or $10. We're a British audience, or at £10, or £50, or £1,000. And that's the important bit. There are some people who really love what we do, who will pay lots of money for something special. And remember what I said at the beginning. The web has enabled us to give stuff away for free to find an audience. It's also enabled one-to-one communication to enable us to find those people who value what we do enough to want to give us money. So one end of the curve, this end, is the marketing opportunity. This is where you give stuff away in order to start the process of finding your audience and earning the right to speak to them again. You'll notice the line doesn't go through zero anymore. It may be that stuff you used to be able to sell, you can't sell anymore. And the reason you can't sell it anymore is not that you can't, but your competition are choosing to give that away for free because of a model like this. And you need to figure out how to compete with that. But at the top end of the curve is the revenue opportunity, the place where people really want to give you money if only you let them. And let me give you a couple of examples of people who've managed to take advantage of this, to use this in a way which enables them to finance the creation of their art or to sell a very mundane product. Oh yes, I was supposed to say this, isn't it? That's what I call the curve, and it comes in these 3 parts. You find an audience, you earn the right to talk to them again, and you enable superfans. Does anybody know who this is? Not the Cookie Monster, the other one. Good, Tim Schafer. Somebody plays video games, thank you. So Tim Schafer makes games that nobody likes, or at least that's what his publishers kept telling him. He kept going up to them and saying, I used to make games like The Secret of Monkey Island and Psychonauts. They were brilliant games, point-and-click adventures, not Psychonauts, but Secret of Monkey Island, that were thoughtful and witty and intelligent and cerebral. And he said, bad news, Tim, we've invented shooting people in the head and that sells better. I don't want to give you any money to make your games. And he said, I'm sure those people who used to buy my games would still like games like that. And he couldn't persuade publishers to fund him. And then the internet came along, and then Kickstarter came along. And Tim went, maybe I can use Kickstarter to find out if there is an audience who loves the sort of things that I used to do. And he went to Kickstarter and put a campaign up. And the campaign was literally, I'm going to make a game like I used to make. That's what he said. If you give me $15 when the game is ready, I will give you a digital version. You don't have to read the small print, it's okay. For $30, I'll give you a digital version and a digital version of a documentary, a making of. For $100, you'll get the special fan edition, the backers edition, a physical game, a physical DVD, a T-shirt, and a poster suitable for framing. He was already thinking about you putting it up on his wall. For $1,000, you get a portrait of you painted in the style of the game. For $5,000, one of 10 limited edition prints. And for $10,000, lunch with Tim Schafer himself. Did anybody back this campaign? Did anybody in the room back this campaign? I've got 1, 2, 3 hands, 4 hands going up, 5, 6. Go on. I was hoping more people were being brave. So 6 people backed the campaign. Did anybody back it at this level? Anyone? I've had a yes once. That guy was very popular with other people trying to raise money at the end of the event. So, so what Tim did, he set out to raise $400,000. He made $3.3 million in the month, $400,000 in day one, from 87,000 people. Those of you who are really good at maths will immediately work out that was $38.28 per person, which is about the price you'd pay for a video game. So I went, okay, I've got that. Let's look at where the people were spending. Because the thing about Kickstarter, for all of you, whether or not you think of Kickstarter as a way of raising money, it is an amazing piece of public market research. Creative people the world over have run experiments on what their superfans will pay for in public. Some haven't worked, and they're public. Some have worked, and they're public. So if you have any interest in figuring out what your superfans might be interested in whatever you do, use Kickstarter, even if you never announce one. It is a treasure trove of information. So here's the first chart. The $15 tier, 50,000 people nearly, more than half of the people were down there. The $30 tier, that was me, were about 25,000 people. The super fans, or the fans, at $100, that looks kind of important, but not critical. It's nice money. These other ones don't matter so much. But when I turned it around, I looked at it by revenue. It turned out that those fans were by far the most important group. A third of the money came from those people spending $100, the fans who bought the stuff they wanted to display on the walls. The people who we thought were the most important at $15 were only 20% of the revenue. I wouldn't say they weren't important, but they were much less important than we might have thought. These other people, these numbers start adding up. I did a further analysis. I said I was a banker, didn't I? So I like spreadsheets and numbers. So I did a further analysis, and Kickstarter makes it possible to do this. So for people who spent $1,000 or more, 0.1% of the people, but 6% of the money. That's some people's profit margins. For $250, about 1% of the people and 15% of the money. But the last one, $100 or more, 15% of the people, 50% of the money, is a pattern we see repeated again and again across Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I believe we see it repeated across the whole world. There are 15 to 20% of people who love what you do enough to be more than half of the income you make from your art or your business, if only you let them. And now we have the tools to enable that. I want to give you a final example of the least digital product I could think of, Flower. You can't deliver it over broadband, you can't upload it to YouTube, you can't pirate it from BitTorrent. But King Arthur Flour has grown to be the second largest miller from the 5th in the US on the back of a strategy that follows this kind of curve. So at the bottom end of their curve, they have a YouTube video. Does anybody in the room bake? Put your hand up if you bake. Are more people going to bake than know Tim Schafer? Yes. So I'm now going to give you some baking advice. Americans use the cup system for measuring flour. The most popular video on the King Arthur Flour website is how to measure a cup of flour properly. Because if you scoop flour out like that, you will get 20% more flour because of the weight of the flour compacting the stuff at the bottom than by the approved method of spooning it in with a spoon. Investment bankers teaching cookery now. So that's their most popular video. It's 50 seconds long. It's their most popular video, how to measure a cup of flour. Americans, why don't you use scales? But that's a separate point. If we move on a bit, they then have a website full of how-tos and recipes and guides, as you'd expect. They have a helpline, a free helpline, staffed by friendly middle-aged bakers who, when you call up and say, my choux pastry isn't working, they say, did you put too much flour in? Did you use the proper approved method of doing it? You're going to have to start again, I'm sorry. They then sell flour. Most of their business is still selling flour. That's where most of their money comes from. They have an e-commerce site where they sell books and rolling pins. As an author, I'm disturbed that rolling pins are worth more than books, but there we go. And right at the top, they sell masterclasses. People fly to Vermont and pay $500 for a day's masterclass in how to cook choux pastry, how to measure flour. And then each of those people, when they finish, they fly home to their towns and villages and suburbs and neighborhoods of America. And people turn around to them and say, you must be a great expert baker. You do all this cooking, you went to these courses. What's your secret? And they say, biking after flour, measure a cup of flour properly, watch the video, and the cycle starts again. So for me, these two things, free and easy sharing and enabling superfans, are the future of pretty well everything. Certainly business, probably activism, definitely the arts. It's about how you use free to find an audience and how you let the people who love what you do spend lots of money on things that they really value. So you need to love your freeloaders because they are the people who will evangelize what you do, and you never know who's going to go on to be a superfan. You need to love your superfans because they are the people who will finance whatever it is that you do and care about. And you need to love everybody in between because they're on a journey from freeloaders to superfans. So love your freeloaders, love your superfans, love everybody in between. I'm Nicholas Lovell. I love you all. Thank you very much.